Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Now I'm back again in another Eve Echoes final build video, and this time I'm touching on the Corax trainer. Now the Corax trainer isn't something which is out of this world or anything of the sort. It is a free ship that we get in the start. Now one of the benefits to this vessel is the fact that it actually has engineering slots. A lot of people will buy these vessels because of their low price, and it's really used for their purpose. It's low price, it's easy to use, but there are some catches with using a trainer. You lose one of your mid slots on the vessel, and also there is the lack of the complete aesthetic of this vessel, so that is something you're going to have to take note of. Now another thing is, in my last video somebody asked for my build, and I did try and actually do the content creator thing and have the ship set with all of the fittings onto it. However, I actually need to build 5 to 6 different variants when I finally figured out that the way that I build them has a habit of switching them up to about 3 or 4 different variants, and sometimes it can go even more. So it's not an easy objective. Instead, I'm going to have the complete list in the description down below. As such, as I'm going through this build, I will be listing it up and putting it on. Now, here is something else to note about these builds. These builds are just basically set as the basics for what I'm going to do in each class. They do change from time to time while I am in the middle of a video. That's because I may have made a mistake before I got to that point, and when I see that there, I just simply alter anything that is in between. Okay, one moment, I'm just checking what I am sitting on. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so let's go in with the Corax trainer. Number one, it is a missile boat. So obviously its weapon systems are going to be missiles. It is using the small systems. Okay, should I say in the operation? I didn't read that. It's going to be using small systems. So as a general rule, unless the ship is fast for its class, it uses the longer range weapon. So if you have something like a cruiser and you know that you have a speed advantage when it comes to combat, and you have enough armor and you have enough overall power grid, you can risk the close range combat. Plus you have a good enough capacitor that a Nosferatu will keep drawing from your enemy. So if you're using enough power plus you're drawing from your enemy, you will end up at a point where you will stay constant and your enemy will lose their advantage over you. So people who use webifiers to get an edge and use laser weapons, you have a chance of disabling their weapon systems if you play it close enough to the wire. Alright, let's go on with the next thing. Number 2, okay, now there is a PvP headway on that there. It doesn't work for PvE. I'm just giving a little bit of a PvP notice because a lot of players end up using my builds in the wrong situations. Now, there are some things that I haven't disclosed. Even though I am saying these ships can be used up to T8, that's T8 small. Medium is a possibility, but there is a strong chance of you losing your ship. When it comes to using it in T7, medium is a doable situation. It has a high risk of loss. Large is a highly undoable situation. There is a small chance of you actually succeeding and doing it purely on talent. Now understand, purely on talent means that it doesn't matter what you have on that ship. They aren't really going to give you any effective advantage in combat. The only thing that's actually going to help you in that situation is your own knowledge. Okay, so the small missile torpedo operation gives you plus 30% damage. So 30% damage overall is a massive increase. The next thing is the destroyer command bonus. This is something that is going to help you, and you'll notice that it is 2 of the weapon systems that I will generally talk about. Oh man, accidentally hit the screen. Right, so as you can see, it is Nosferatu and stasis webifier optimal range. Now adding a 25% to the optimal range does really help you big time. Remember, if you get 1 kilometer extra, it's a big thing. 10 kilometers plus 25%, that's 2.5. You'll be at 12.5 range. Now, in the entry-level classes, if you are going to buy the most expensive ones, remember your range is reduced. But the most expensive ones, the Predators for the webifiers, give you extended range, and your small webifiers give you a certain range which is standard for them in their particular class. You have a 3008 overall defense, puts you in the same class as some of the higher class frigates, which I said could actually play up to quite a high level. You have 275 meters per second speed. Now, as a general thing, when it comes to speed on your ship, if your speed isn't high enough, you aren't efficient enough for combat. 4.5 AU warp speed, it's good enough to get you around, it's not good enough to become the ace for getting away from combat. You will get caught by frigates. 49 megawatt power grid, it's a missile weapon platform. You only have 7 real slots to worry about. So with 49 megawatts, it is a doable situation. Adding in your research from engineering, this year will be closer to 73 megawatts of total power. So that's what you're going to have. You have a 386 gigajoule capacitor. It is terrible for the ship, by the way. 900 cubic meter cargo hold capacity. It means you can stick around for quite an amount of time and loot up as much as you can while you're out in combat. Okay, so let's get on to building the ship. So let's move to the missiles. Okay, now I am not touching torpedoes. Torpedoes in this particular class of vessel is a death sentence. Now, this ship's effective range is not the same as most of the frigates. Because of its 275 meter per second and its, because of its particular range in destroyers, I am actually going to pull down where I say the maximum for this ship is. It is a level 6 medium on the high-end operation and a level 7 small on high-end operation. There is a strong chance of you losing your ship in both T6 and T7 operations. So hold that in mind. Now, in terms of your small missiles, you're going to go to your biggest class. I don't know why that opened. So that's the X type. Remember, you can get these if you are setting up if you are setting up these things, it is going to make a big difference for you. So 3 small missile launches, there is no option for using torpedoes. The reason is you are much too slow. Cruisers have an edge on you to some extent. Some of the cruisers have a massive edge over you and they can flank you quite easily. The moment they do that, it's over for you. Remember, the cruiser has a medium class weapon system. If they outflank you in speed, you have no damage reduction. No damage reduction from your primaries means you're going to be counting on your low slots. You only have 3 low slots, which means you're only going to have a basic configuration. And if somebody decides to offload in you with that as your particular defense, you are finished. As you can see, it's 9 megawatts per missile, so that's 27 megawatts total. Right, now let's move on to the next item on the list, and that is going to be your stasis webifier. I never realized that jotting down while talking was easier than making notes beforehand. I think I'm going to actually quit altogether the other method. So you have a 1 megawatt total of power usage on this stasis webifier. You only want the stasis webifier to stop an enemy from getting too close, right? Because you have 25% additional range. 25% on this 15 is just under 3 kilometers. So you're going to be able to stop them up to 17. They're not going to be able to webify you unless they have a range extension. So that is where you go with the webifier. Now, I am going to recommend Predators and small missile X type as the fittings, but this is one thing. If you can't afford them, you can drop lower, but that means you must also drop your expectations of where you can fight to a lower level. Make sure that you have that in mind if you are going to do this. Now, the reason why I'm not going with a Nosferatu on this particular ship is the Nosferatu won't be very effective. You do have a very small power capacitor. So so you will be able to compete with other ships. But the problem is you don't have enough defense and you don't have enough secondary firepower or anything of that sort to actually help you out. You're pretty much a very vanilla type ship. Okay, so let's move on to our low slots. Now this is where most of your ship is built. There are two things that are going to be standard in any one of these builds, and that is going to be your shield booster. Now this is a shield class vessel. That's how come I'm going straight to the shield booster, otherwise I would have went another route. So 1 by small X type shield booster. This is so much easier, I can't believe it. Alright, the next thing on the list is going to be either a hardener or damage control unit. Now this is where the change in builds will come in. Why do I recommend even a damage control unit? Well, that's because you might just want to extend your effective defense beyond reason. Now obviously the damage control unit extends where you're going to take damage overall throughout combat, while the X type is just going to give you a solid big boost. Now these components are so expensive at the moment that actually recommending this for your backup means that you have a fully fledged ship ready to go at any point at this particular level. So an X type adaptive hardener. All right, by the way, normally I write shorthand, so this is my first time in years writing in full, so this is really becoming difficult. I normally am plagued with spelling errors. Or the other option for this was a damage control unit. Now there is a very simple reason why these two are options, right? So the first thing for you to note is the damage control unit is an option because it overall boosts your entire ship. As you can see, the overall increase to your shield is a quarter of what you're going to get from your adaptive shield booster, right? So it's a quarter more powerful, 25% of the defense that you're going to get, where you would get 75% more if you went with just your shield hardening. However, this applies to 2 more sections of your ship. So overall, it is a lower defense, but it is a stall tactic. If someone gets to through your shield with the shield booster and the shield hardener, their damage is going to accelerate quickly through your armor and into your hull. With this, their damage is dampened by 25%, and then they only start to get the edge. So if you can get my drift on what I'm trying to do with it, that is the whole idea. Now, you're understanding that this is for this particular small ship. I'm only doing it because you will choose whichever option is more affordable to your particular build at that time. The last thing on this here is a X-type small afterburner. Now this is a massive drawback in terms of your capacitor. Be very careful about what you're using on your ship. You aren't fast enough to escape with micro warp drive. So if you even think about it, you're not getting away, and it's really going to be a big waste for you. X-type afterburner for the last part of your low slots. Now the one thing that I generally don't do is I don't list off the rigs very thoroughly, but I do explain which rig you're looking for in terms of output. That's because I myself make such a mess of this that I don't want to give you the same problem running through things in the game. Sorry about that. Okay, so overall, what was our power grid? Now that's because I can list it out like this, it makes it so much simpler. Let's see, 17 plus 27, that will be 44 plus 6, that's 52 megawatts for the total power grid. A 52 megawatt power grid usage, as I said, we're going to go up to the upper limit of 75. This is where something kicks into the whole gameplay that is going to be a bit irritating. You might have to reset your points at this point if you are going to swap ships. So having an excess amount of I'm forgetting what the currency is even called, not Omega, the currency to buy Omega, the one to reset your skills. I totally forgot what it's called. I can actually find out right now if I wanted to. Just have to go up the list into pilot services. Plex, that's it, Plex. Sorry, I'm totally lost with this. Now I will give you a basic idea. You only have 2 rigs on the ship, right? Your fire rate isn't great. Your ability to outmaneuver others is not great with the ship. So if you are going to go with your weapon rigs in your missiles, it's going to be a very standard configuration. You're going double damage. This is one of the only times that you're going to go double damage. Increasing your fire rate isn't going to save you, right? I'm just being frank with it. The ship is way too weak to actually give you enough of an edge in combat. It's only 3 weapon slots, so you also have that negative to actually fight off, and you still have to worry about the next thing. Now let's see. Wrong one. There's it, calefaction. So 2 by warhead calefactions. 4. Now the reason why I'm going to always recommend the highest level of these rigs is these rigs are really important for you. One moment, I'm in the wrong slot altogether. I'm going to engineering to navigation. Now because the ship isn't particularly fast, this makes 0 difference to your overall performance. You're going to go with 1 auxiliary thruster. As you can see, flight velocity adjustment of 20%. And it isn't really the biggest change to this overall flow of combat, and you will see that I am going to be slow even tomorrow when I release the next video. So let's go down. We need an engineering rig. Right. Semiconductor control memory. Right, that is one of the options. This is also one where you have an option either or. Semiconductor control is one of the most used items, so it is very, very expensive for most of you to purchase. And the other thing about this is, with this massive increase in capacitor, it actually helps you stay in combat longer. So that is the reason why so many people end up using it. And let's go to the last one, capacitor control circuit. This is also in the same range of effectiveness. It recharges your grid faster. Now grid recharging rate does make a big difference on fully leveled vessels, and when you have a high-end, high power consuming vessel like a laser class vessel, installing one of these is a better option than a semiconductor memory control, right? It's just the way that it is, and it's definitely something which you can do. Capacitor control. Alright, so that is everything on this build. Now it is unusual for me to have done it this way. This is just a first time try. This was based on a suggestion because someone asked for the builds. Now in the description down below, you're going to find the build for the ship. So obviously I'm hoping that it does work out better. Catch you all in the next one. Have a good day.